when we show the world at large. And then there's the truth.
A fellow tabletop game designer, Patrick Fannon, has been accused of various sexual improprieties. These are really just accusations at the moment, though he has apparently admitted to some sort of lesser things or a degree of something that's been accused towards him. So it wouldn't really be that appropriate to delve too deep into the specifics. Suffice to say that it's the kind of thing that you would perhaps expect, as in pressuring people, making unwelcome sexual advances and so on. Now, me and Sean, we have some history. We used to be kind of acquaintances, I guess, not really friends exactly, but we moved in the same circles. We had some productive discussions on tabletop gaming and so forth. And I thought we were reasonably amicable. We didn't necessarily agree, but we could have a discussion about things. That pretty much changed during Gamergate, as my relationship with quite a lot of other people did. See, I always felt that gamers, particularly tabletop gamers, of anyone should be particularly resistant to moral panics, suffering as we did. The slings and arrows of the media and hype, that whole machine during the Satanic Panic in the 80s, the Lesser Vampire Panic in the 90s, and gaming's come under attack in various forms, in various degrees over time. You would think of anybody, gamers would have learned to be skeptical about this sort of thing, but when it came around to Gamergate, he happily joined in the crowd decrying it. He was also one of the cheerleaders for the banning of my Gamergate card game from Drive-Thru-RPG and RPG Now and other sales points. So yeah, I reckon he was probably involved in that as much as some other companies were, such as Evil Hat and so on. We got into it a bit here and there. I believe Twitter, Facebook and Google+, though he has me blocked on everything now, so I can't actually go back and be sure exactly who said what to who and all of that. But you know me, I'm normally fairly reasonable, if forceful, and he's the one that blocked and discarded me and who supported the banning of a fellow game designer's material with some peculiar justifications. So in light of all these allegations, I suppose I should be gloating and happy that he's gotten into trouble over it. After all, he also campaigned to have other people's material banned from these places, or at least cheered it on where it happened. The same thing happened to Vengeance Satanis and some of his material. Same things happened to other people. And Sean has been there at the forefront as a proud social justice warrior. So I should be gloating, right? Well, no. I extend to him the same principled stance that I would to anyone else being accused, in that we consider them innocent until there's some kind of proof that they're guilty. He has admitted to a couple of minor things, so fair enough, hold him guilty on that, though I couldn't find the particular comments in question. But as to the rest of it, they're just accusations. Now, if you look on the RPGNet discussion, RPGNet is trash, but it's a good example of everything that's wrong, so it's worth looking at with that point of view. But if you go there and you'll see people saying that the principle of innocent until proven guilty is something for the courts and not something we should hold to in day-to-day life. But it's not. It's a general logical principle that one should not believe things without sufficient objective cause to believe in them. It's why I'm an atheist. It's why science works as it does. As things go as a general rule in life, it's a very good way to go along with things. Now, you may have personal relationships with some of the people who are accusing him, and you may be forced for that reason or some other reason to agree. Maybe you've assessed evidence that I haven't seen. But for everyone to cast him out, to prevent him from going to conventions, to cancelling podcasts and interviews and so on, threatening to boycott games that he's worked on, and he's worked on the new Savage Worlds version of Rifts. Yeah, this is all jumping the gun and unnecessary, because he is not the only person involved in any of these projects that are now threatened and harmed. Also, he hasn't yet been shown to be guilty in any sense, and yet people are willing to jump the gun and do that, and even to decry anyone who does suggest that maybe we should wait to see what's actually happened, suggesting that they are somehow taking the side of rapists and molesters and so on in some kind of greater societal way, perpetuating the problem. It's impossible not to feel some schadenfreude seeing him suffer in this way, in exactly the same way he has been perfectly happy to happen to others. To see him now, he's on the receiving end, making many of the same arguments and discussions, and whether guilty or innocent, you know, I can't help but take some pleasure in seeing him get his comeuppance, and seeing him suddenly managing to understand not even the other point of view, but the just and rational and sceptical point of view. I can't help it. It is satisfying. The point I want to make here, really, to flog a dead horse, because I've gone on about these things a lot, is that these things are matters of principle, and there is a dangerous and febrile atmosphere everywhere, not just in games, not just in tabletop games. The whole... anyone who hasn't got laid in the last few weeks is now an incel, and not just a potential rapist but a potential terrorist. Me Too being invoked for things that are relatively trivial, can we at least say that, or lower on the scale than rape. Things that are problems but shouldn't perhaps be invoked in the same breath as systematic use of Hollywood power to secure sexual favours. Things are out of hand, and Sean, bless him, presents a good example of that. Yeah, he was the absolute most social justicey warrior of the most social justicey warriors that you could think of, and it didn't protect him. In fact, like so many others, he seems to have had feet of clay and to have been everything that he claimed to be against, if we are to take these accusations as true, which I'm not going to, but even without being proven, they are massively impacting his career. Incredibly negatively, in just the same way that these witch hunts have affected other people. Whether someone is guilty or not, we shouldn't treat them as being guilty, though perhaps we can take a few precautions and so on, until it's shown. And the fact that a mere accusation can destroy someone's life in this way is a problem. Most of the people are anonymous. Now, Sean, in defending himself, named some of the people that accused him, and that got him even more ire. I mean, you should be able to face your accusers. All the evidence that he posted for his point of view was erased from the RPGNet thread, so you're not even allowed to defend yourself in any way, certainly not using facts or evidence in any way. And now someone like me coming only can see one side of the story, that of the accusers, who are allowed to remain completely anonymous, while the person being accused isn't granted the same kind of protection. There aren't any, and there probably won't be any legal proceedings, but he's paying a massive social and economic cost just for being accused. There may be evidence for it going on past examples of similar social justice warriors who have been called out for their sexual improprieties. It seems fairly likely that he is guilty, but I'm not prepared to jump that gun the same way that these people are. And of course it's now being used to invoke things like anti-harassment policies and so on at conventions. Every convention already has an anti-harassment policy. It's called the law. Anything that really should be termed harassment is already illegal and prosecutable. So if you suffer it, whether at a convention or anywhere else, you call the police if you can't work it out with the person. And the accusations they're made, whether they're true or not, do very much reek of a socially awkward person, the same way that accusations against Lawrence Krauss and others have seemed to be that kind of thing. And people being unwilling or unable to get the point across that they're not welcome in a polite way because the person is socially oblivious in some way. I think that's certainly true of Sean. He is someone who advertised on his blog his quest for love and to meet a female partner who was also into games, and he did get a few dates out of it. Cringy, embarrassing, kind of interesting as a social experiment, but it does show the kind of person we're talking about here and the sheer level of social awkwardness and lack of self-awareness that we're talking about. Now, anti-harassment policies at conventions aren't going to do anything. They wouldn't have stopped any of the things that Sean is accused of, I don't think. They would just be something people could point at to get him thrown out of the convention. But if what he had done was really harassment, then the law should have been involved. And it wasn't in any of these cases. The problem with these anti-harassment policies is that they are often used to Trojan horse a bunch of censorship in. I've talked about this point many times, but if many of these anti-harassment policies were actually enforced, most games could not be sold at conventions, cosplay could not go on at conventions, and there have been issues with things like skirt measuring at PAX and so on, which just goes to show how ludicrous it's all become. I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's not to just scream witch and burn people at the metaphorical stake at the drop of a hat or at the point of a mere accusation. I know it's not bringing in these policies as a knee-jerk reaction, because they are always overextended and they always have additional knock-on effects later. Well done to Dragon Meat for ramping their one back a bit from the state it was in when I first complained about it. The solution for everybody is to have tolerance and clear communication. And at least in my industry, it's not like we're rock stars. It's not like we can ruin you or anything if we get up to anything bad. But it is strange that it is always, it seems, these social justice warrior types who are being caught out for sexual impropriety, and it's out and out perverts like me that you're safe with. Zang.